The doctor's hand was shaking when he touched my arm. Not the normal shaking of an old man or tired fingers, but a deep, frightened tremble that moved through his whole body. He leaned close, so close I could smell the mint on his breath, and whispered, "Please listen carefully. Do not take your child home tonight. When you leave this building, call the police. Now." My heart stopped beating for a moment. I looked down at my son, Daniel, sitting quietly in his wheelchair beside me. His small hands rested in his lap. His eyes followed the movement of the ceiling fan above us, slow and calm, like he was counting each turn. He looked peaceful. He looked safe. I looked back at the doctor and whispered, "What are you talking about? Did something happen? Is he dying?" The doctor shook his head slowly. His face had gone pale, like all the blood had drained out of it. "No," he said. "Your child is not dying. But you are in danger. And so is he." I did not understand. For 12 years, I had cared for my disabled son alone. I had carried him, fed him, bathed him, and stayed awake beside his bed through fevers, seizures, and long silent nights. I had done everything a father could do. I had protected him from the world. Or at least I believed I had. Now this man was telling me not to go home. My mouth felt dry. "Doctor," I said slowly, "I need you to explain this to me. Right now." He looked at the door, then back at me. His voice dropped even lower. "I cannot say everything here. But I have seen the test results. I have seen the reports. Someone close to you has been hurting your child. And tonight, if you go home, something very bad will happen." The room felt like it was spinning. Someone close to me. There was only one other person in our lives. My sister-in-law, Ruth. She had lived with us for the past 3 years. She said she was helping. She said she loved Daniel. She said she loved me like a brother. I had believed her. The doctor squeezed my arm hard. "Please," he said again. "Do not confront anyone. Do not go home. Take your child and go somewhere safe. Call the police. Now." I nodded, but my mind was screaming. Had I missed something? Had I ignored signs? Had my silence made this possible? As I wheeled Daniel out of the clinic and into the bright afternoon sun, one terrible question burned in my chest. What had been happening inside my own home while I trusted the wrong person? 12 years earlier, my life had collapsed in a hospital room that smelled like disinfectant and fear. My wife, Anna, lay still on the bed. Her eyes were closed. The machines around her were silent. The doctor spoke words I barely heard. Complications. Sudden bleeding. They did everything they could. She was gone. Our son Daniel was only 2 months old. Later, they told me Daniel had suffered brain damage during birth. He would never walk. He might never speak. He would need full-time care for the rest of his life. In one day, I lost my wife and the future I imagined for my child. I remember sitting in the hospital hallway with Daniel in my arms. He was crying softly. I pressed my forehead against his and whispered, "I'm here. I won't leave you. I promise." And I meant it. The first years were hard. Harder than anything I had known. Daniel cried at night. He had seizures. He needed therapy appointments, special food, special equipment. I learned how to lift him safely. I learned how to read his small expressions. I learned his sounds, his needs, his comfort. I stopped working full-time. I took jobs I could do from home. I stopped seeing friends. My world became small, but it became clear. It was just Daniel and me. For 9 years, it stayed that way. Then Ruth came. She was my wife's younger sister. She showed up one afternoon with a suitcase and tears in her eyes. She said she had lost her job. She said she felt guilty for not being around after Anna died. She said she wanted to help. "You don't have to do this alone anymore," she told me. I was tired. I was lonely. I wanted to believe her. At first, she really did help. She cooked. She cleaned. She watched Daniel while I worked. She learned his routine. She smiled at him and sang songs. She told everyone how brave I was, how special Daniel was. People praised her. Slowly, things changed. She began insisting on taking Daniel to appointments alone. "You need rest," she said. "I'll handle it." She started controlling the medication schedule. "You always forget the times," she said. "Let me do it." If Daniel cried when she was alone with him, she said it was normal. "He's difficult," she said. "You're too soft with him." I noticed small bruises once. She said he hit himself during a seizure. I noticed weight loss. She said it was his condition. I noticed fear in his eyes when she raised her voice. I told myself I was imagining things. I stayed silent. Because I was afraid of losing help. Because I was tired. Because I did not want to believe that betrayal lived in my house. That silence was my biggest mistake. And now, 12 years after I promised to protect my son, a doctor had told me not to go home. As I pushed Daniel toward the car, my hands shook. What would I find out next? I did not drive home. I drove to the police station. Daniel sat quietly beside me, humming softly, unaware that his life was about to change forever. At the station, I spoke slowly. I told them everything. The doctor's warning, the test results, the bruises, the changes, the fear. The officers listened carefully. One of them nodded and said, "You did the right thing." They contacted the hospital. They reviewed medical records. They spoke to the doctor. Then one officer came back into the room and closed the door. "Sir," he said gently, "your son has been given medication he does not need. In dangerous amounts. Over a long period of time." I felt sick. "Why?" I whispered. The officer took a breath. "We believe someone has been slowly harming him to make his condition appear worse than it is." The truth hit me like a blow. Ruth had been making Daniel sicker. On purpose. They explained everything clearly. Ruth had been collecting government caregiver payments in Daniel's name. The more severe his condition appeared, the more money she received. She had also been posting online about caring for a severely disabled child, receiving donations, praise, and attention. She needed Daniel to stay helpless. She needed me to stay quiet. She needed control. The officer looked me in the eyes. "If this had continued, your son could have died." My chest tightened. They asked if Ruth was home. I said yes. That was when they told me something even worse. Ruth had recently searched online for large insurance payouts, wills, and accidental deaths of disabled dependents. She had planned something. That night, my legs nearly gave out. The police moved fast. They sent officers to my house. They told me to stay at the station. Hours passed. Then an officer returned. "Ruth has been arrested," he said. "We found evidence in the house. Extra medication, fake logs, hidden bank transfers." I should have felt relief. Instead, I felt crushing guilt. I had let her in. I had ignored signs. I had trusted silence over instinct. As I held Daniel close that night in a safe room provided by the police, one painful question filled my mind. Would my son ever trust me again? The days after Ruth's arrest were heavy and slow. Daniel stayed in the hospital for observation. Doctors carefully reduced the unnecessary medication. Slowly, something incredible happened. He became more alert. He smiled more. He responded to my voice in ways he never had before. One doctor sat with me and said, "Your son's condition was exaggerated by what was done to him. He has limitations, yes. But he is stronger than you were led to believe." I cried. Not from joy. From regret. Ruth confessed everything during questioning. She said it started small. Extra pills. Extra reports. Then money came. Attention came. Control came. She said she never thought of Daniel as a person anymore. He was a resource. Hearing that broke something inside me. But it also hardened something. The trial came months later. Ruth was convicted of abuse, fraud, and attempted harm. She was sentenced to prison. The judge looked at me and said, "Your silence was not cruelty. But your courage today saved a life." I began therapy. Daniel began therapy. Slowly, trust returned. Slowly, healing came. But one fear still remained. Had the damage already been done? Would Daniel ever truly be safe? 3 years later, our home is quiet again. But it is a different kind of quiet. Daniel is stronger now. He cannot walk, but he laughs. He understands more. He feels safe. I left my job and found work that fits our life. I no longer accept help without questions. I no longer ignore my instincts. I learned a painful lesson. Silence does not protect peace. It protects harm. If I had spoken earlier, my son would have suffered less. But I spoke when it mattered most. The doctor's whisper saved us. And now, every night, when I tuck Daniel into bed, I lean close and whisper something back to him. "You're safe. I'm listening. I won't stay silent again. And this time, I mean it."